Hi, I'm Tinabeth Piña from CUNY TV, and welcome to CUNY Women's Conference Week. We have a lot of exciting events on our agenda this week that will inform and inspire you. You'll be meeting and hearing from many wonderful and accomplished women from CUNY's ranks, as well as from outside the university. Whether you are a student, faculty, or staff member, their experiences will offer valuable perspectives as you think about your own careers, lives, and futures. To get started, I'd like to introduce you to CUNY's #1 champion for female leadership, our Chancellor, Félix Matos Rodríguez. Throughout his tenure at CUNY as president of Hostess Community College and then Queens College, and for the past 4 years as Chancellor, he has elevated great numbers of women to leadership roles and has been a steadfast advocate for the advancement and success of women throughout CUNY. That commitment led to this Women's Conference Week. So without further ado, here's our Chancellor.
Thank you, Tinabeth, and good morning to everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to CUNY's first Women's Conference Week. 5 days of exploration, insight, and inspiration that I am confident will have a real impact on everyone who engages in the conversations to come. This inaugural Women's Conference Week brings together 2 established events that have grown and evolved separately over the years, guided by some of CUNY's most accomplished and inspirational women. For 19 years, the annual CUNY's Women's Leadership Conference has been inspiring women students and helping them realize their potential as leaders. It's been paired with a newer event, the Career Compass for Women's Leaders Conference, which is now in its 4th year as a space that promotes professional and personal development and mentorship for CUNY faculty and staff. Individually, these 2 conferences have reached thousands of CUNY women and even drawn participants from across the nation and the world. Merging them into a single week enhances our efforts to support, strengthen, and elevate women at all levels and on every campus. It reflects our unity around these aspirations and our unshakable commitment to empowering all CUNY women, whether they're students, faculty, or staff, as they envision their futures and shape the trajectory of their careers. To plan and implement this new combined initiative, we put together a team from throughout CUNY, led by Chief of Staff and Associate Vice Chancellor for the Executive Office, Dolly Martinez, Queensborough College President, Christine Mangino, and Macaulay Honors College Dean, Dara Byrne. I thank every member of the Women's Conference team, as well as the many CUNY leaders who will be participating in the panels and the breakout sessions. They include Board of Trustees Vice Chairperson Sandra Wilkins and Trustees Una Clark, Lorraine Cortez Vasquez, Mayra Linares Garcia, Jill O'Donnell Tornay, and Student Trustee Salimatu Domboya. College presidents, graduate school deans, and academic leaders, including Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost Wendy Hensel, CUNY's highest-ranking women administrator. I am grateful as well to our keynote speakers, panelists, and other guests, each of them a success story, each a role model. The themes that all these leaders will focus on are timely and ambitious. Tuesday and Thursday, the Career Compass Conference for faculty and staff will explore the future of work for women. Where do we go from here? And for the Students' Women's Leadership Conference on Friday, the theme will be Daring to Lead. To propel these discussions, our participants will share their personal and professional journeys, what they've learned along the way, and what you can learn from their experiences. You will hear about the challenges that they face, the mentors who guided their success, the setbacks that cropped up along the way, and how they managed to keep moving forward. Thank you to all of you for being part of this Women's Conference Week. I hope the conversations this week will be illuminating for each of you and that they make a difference in your lives, whether it is in the near future or sometime down the road.
Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you for your support. And that is the perfect segue to our next panel about women leaders at the state political level. More than at any other time in our nation's history, women are running for office and winning, although we still have a long way to go before we have fair representation at that level. Currently in New York State, 48 out of 150 assembly members are women, while 19 out of 63 senators are women. To discuss her path to a state political career, we are joined by state legislator Catalina Cruz, who will share her journey with us. Let's take a look.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here at the Women's Conference Week, a new initiative that's been organized by the Chancellor's Office. My name is Glenda Grace. I'm Senior Vice Chancellor and Special Counsel at CUNY. We want to thank our Planning Council for getting this conference together, and I'm just so excited to be talking about daring to lead. And we are thrilled to have the two people who are sitting next to me, Katarina Matic, who is a global senior director at Matic and Company. More importantly, she's an alum of Queens College, and she's currently pursuing her degree at the Ziegler School of Baruch. She's getting her executive MBA. And we are thrilled to have another alum with us, Assembly Member Catalina Cruz, who is also an alum of John Jay and of the law school. So she serves in many capacities in the New York State Assembly, and we're so excited to hear from her today about daring to lead. So really, the first question is going to come from Katarina.
Thank you, Glenda. So we know that New York State government has seen many great women leaders in its history, but leadership and the exercise of leadership is very different than having power. And now that we have two leaders in the room out of three in the state legislature, Senate Speaker Andrea Stewart-Cousins and Governor Kathy Hochul, are you seeing any changes in how the negotiations and the budget are happening, legislative priorities, any shift in focus?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me. It's always good to be back with our CUNY family. My line has always been CUNY saved my life. So any chance I get, an opportunity to talk to students and to the faculty and to simply say thank you, I take it. So I'm here to share that part of who I am. You know, in thinking about what the shift in leadership has looked like in our state, we're about to see what that's going to be. April 1st is the day that the budget is due, and we've began the proverbial budget dance. One side asks for one thing, another one proposes, and we're going to start seeing some shift back and forth. I certainly hope it'll be a little bit different. This is not the first budget that we've done with the governor. Last budget was, for lack of a better word, frustrating. There was an attempt to roll back bail reform, and many of us were shut out of actual conversations. Even leadership was shut out of conversations, and I suspect that the governor will have a little bit of a different tactic when it comes to how she's going to deal with members and the bodies and leadership themselves.
Thank you. So daring to lead is a theme, and you've talked a little bit about leadership, but was there a moment or circumstances where you decided, I need to lead, I need to be in the room and at the table?
So it was the night Trump got elected. I sat there and I cried, and I said, what the F am I doing with my privilege? I had become a United States citizen after having been undocumented for a very long time. I had become a lawyer, and I was walking the halls of power. I was working for then Governor Cuomo, doing what I thought was creating change. And soon I realized that I was it almost felt like I was a token Latina. Like, as long as we had the Latina doing immigration, you know, we could get away with the three same proposals every year. And I went through, I often call it a mid-career life crisis, where I went into an actual deep depression. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to be there anymore. And in comes Julissa Ferreras Copeland, that many of us know, who was the first Afro-Latina chairwoman of the City Council Budget Committee, Finance Committee. And I became her chief of staff, and I felt like my outlook on what it means to lead as a woman of color completely changed. And it was that night where I said, what am I doing with all this privilege working for someone that doesn't care enough about my communities?
Wow.
It's a truly inspiring story. And speaking of inspiring stories, we do have the Equal Rights Amendment that now passed in 2 consecutive legislative sessions. I've had the privilege of working with Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright, who first introduced it in the Assembly, and of course Senator Liz Krueger carrying it in the Senate. Now it's going to appear on the ballot in November. And can you tell us a little bit about what is being done to make sure that voters understand how important it is to pass DRA and have it implemented, and what are the state legislators doing?
Well, the reality is nothing's being done yet because we're just starting the process of the election season process. They start doing petitioning for candidates this coming Tuesday. And we're going to see, and what I'm hoping the Democratic Party will do is not what they did 2 years ago with the last constitutional amendment, which failed because we failed as elected officials, and I'm not just going to put it on the party. I think all of us have a duty that if we fought so hard to pass it, we have a duty to remind the community, this is what it means, here's how we're going to change it. And a side note, I'm not going to put that complete blame on myself because I actually went out and I was educating the community, here's what we need to do, here's what it means to do this change, but that's not every person. And I think, it's going to fall on all of us if we fought so hard to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, that we have to fight hard to finish that last leg, which is getting the voters to vote yes on it. And I have a feeling we will do it. There's this need for change when we see a Supreme Court who's been trying at every angle to take away our rights, not just as women, but as people of color, immigrants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think people are going to feel very compelled to bring it home and to have those protections at a very local level. So we're going to get to work on that.
So education is a key, it sounds like. And we want to hear more about your CUNY education, and how did that make a difference? How does that influence you every day?
So I will say I ended up at CUNY, and the reality is because there was nothing else I could afford. I was undocumented, and I had gotten to SUNY. I had got into CUNY, I got to SUNY Albany to CUNY, and I got into, I want to say, this was many years ago, I want to say I got into 3 CUNYs, but my top one was John Jay, because I am obsessed with the Law and Order Special Victims Unit show. And I thought, by the time I graduate, I'm going to have my papers and I'm going to go be a police officer. I'm going to go be the next Olivia Benson. And it didn't work out like that. We're still waiting for the DREAM Act to happen because I thought, that's it, it's going to happen. And in the process of going to John Jay, and I chose John Jay because even SUNY I couldn't afford, and I am extremely thankful to the professors I had at John Jay. A shout out to Marcia Esparza, who still has her mark in the teachings of John Jay, and is actually one of the people who taught me about civil rights and violations and what that looks like to fight on behalf of the underserved. And it was in my last year at John Jay that I met a wonderful attorney who helped me regularize my status so I could become a permanent resident and later a citizen, and he did it for free. He did it as a pro bono case. And I fell in love with the idea of the law and what it would mean. And I don't tell this story often of how the universe conspired to make sure that I could go to CUNY. And so I applied again to several law schools, and I actually didn't get into CUNY at first. I got into 2 other ones out of state, and I was ready to put it in the check, literally had the checkbook that day when I get a call from I believe her name was Dean Pacheco,
Yeah.
who was our admissions officer then, admissions dean then. She called me and said, if you go to Summer Law Institute, which we're going to pay you to go to, you're in. And I said, let's do this. And I went in and I never looked back, and it is the best investment I've ever made because it opened doors for girls like me who are not, I grew up in East New York. I grew up in some of the poorest parts of Medellin, Colombia. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be able to have that kind of education, that kind of path, and CUNY Law opened it and has allowed me to help others the same way.
Wonderful.
You overcome so many obstacles, personally, professionally, and continue to, I'm sure. Can you tell us, as a woman, what emerging issues will women continue to face over the coming years that come to mind?
I think one of the biggest ones is going to continue to be sexual harassment in the workplace, and how do we fight against it, what it looks like, what kind of legislation do we establish to fight back against that. As we see more states like New York and more even cities like New York City, where we're creating laws to force employers to tell people how much a job is going to offer as a salary, we're going to start seeing clearer what the disparity between two employees, one who's a woman and one who's not a woman, and who's probably making more than she is for the same position. We're going to start seeing that and what that looks like. So I think the workplace is the next frontier, if you will. Salary, benefits, sexual harassment, and I'm hoping that we're going to come out on the other side, and that it's not going to take us 20 years like with the Equal Rights Amendment, that it's going to take us a lot less to make sure that we have the kind of workplace that recognizes that we as women, or folks who identify as women, because I think that's going to be another big piece of our transgender community, of how do we make sure that people are treated fairly, and are given the kind of chance that they deserve to thrive in the workplace.
So if you could give yourself, your younger self advice about what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and just how you could continue to succeed, what's the advice you would give your younger self?
Someone asked me that once. I said, "Don't dye your hair red." So when I was in college, I dyed my hair red, and my mom didn't speak to me for like 3 days. But I think one of the biggest things that I would tell myself is, it's okay to have fear. You know, we're often told as women that we have to be these, stone cold face. Don't let anybody see you cry. Don't let anybody see that you have fear. I actually think it's a good thing. You know, it makes you human. It makes you want to work twice as hard. It makes you actually work twice as hard and probably do it better than the people who think they got it all together. It is okay to cry. It is okay to be fearful. It doesn't make you any less powerful, and in my opinion, actually makes you a kinder, more in touch with your human part kind of leader.
Wonderful.
I'm sure every one of us has at least one person who they consider a mentor and sort of a very important figure in their life. And I'd like to think that you are that for many people as well. What advice would you give to students about how they can be more active on issues like public education, like women's issues, and many of the others that you're working on? What would you say to them that would inspire them and motivate them to act?
Thank you for saying that. For me, it's always a little bit hard to see myself in that, because all I've done is live my true self and be as, sometimes a little too open, but as open as possible about who I am and how I got here and the kind of work that I do. And I think when you do things from love and from honesty, people can appreciate that. You know, the advice that I would give to students is, if you don't have, first of all, I'd give a shout out to my dreamers first. You don't have to have a piece of paper that determines you are worthy of participating in civic society. When I ran, my campaign manager was is still undocumented, she's a dreamer. I had several dreamers helping us with policy and working with us. I mean, El Diario even had an article about the dreamers running the campaign. Like, these were the folks who helped me make history. They are the ones who pushed me here. So do not think that a piece of paper determines that you can participate. As a matter of fact, there's other things you can do. Like I said, run campaigns, go knock on doors, help people make phone calls, help people create better policies with dreamers in mind. When it comes to students, I would ask the folks who are documented to show up and be willing to be a sponge, to learn. Don't think that just because you've helped door knock on one campaign, you would know what it is like to run a campaign. It's a very difficult job. It's not the only thing that you can do to be part of the change. You can go work on issue-based campaigns. It's not just the politics that change what a state should look like. We're trying to make sure CUNY doesn't get defunded. That's one of the things that we should be fighting for, to make sure that that we help our SUNY family not have tuition hikes. Those are the kinds of things that students can get involved with and have repercussions that go far beyond what's in front of them or even their own lives.
Excellent. So we've asked you all these questions and we may have missed something. Is there anything you want to tell the wonderful people who are looking at this conference, the students, the women, the men? The last words are going to be left to you to give advice, because you've been great and we appreciate hearing from you.
I'd love for you to stop me and say hello if you see me in the halls of Albany. If you see me come to your school, talk to us as politicians, and not just me, my colleagues. We are everyday people who care about issues that impact all of us, from minimum wage to sexual harassment in the workplace, to wage theft, to housing, to CUNY and our education. We care about those things. And so talk to us. Do not be afraid to stop your local elected official and lobby them on an issue that you care about, because you deserve to have that time and to have us listen to you. The other thing that I would say is, I know that your college years go by in a flash. I know that for women, we often have 10,000 things we have to tend to, especially for the CUNY students who often come from communities of color, where you are the extra mom in the house and you also have to have 2 jobs, and then you might have your own kid. Do not forget about figuring out what makes you happy. The advice that I got from a high school teacher once is the advice I always give students. If you have to pick a job that you pick up on a Friday, and on that Monday, if you had to do it for free, you would do it because that's the career that is going to make you happy. And be okay with it not being exactly what you went to school for. Just find something that makes you want to get up in the morning every day and make the world better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I think we'll see you soon at the Summer Salvatore Conference in Albany, where we have some CUNY students debating the ERA bill. So I look forward to the discussion.
Look forward to seeing them.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for that motivational conversation. Now we're going to move on to our city panel discussion, where we're about to meet 3 members of the New York City Council who are trailblazers for women in politics. These powerful women are 3 of the 31 female members overall, and will discuss how they started and have navigated their careers in City Council. Let's take a look.
Welcome to CUNY Women's Conference Week. My name is Dean Dara Byrne. I'm the Dean of Macaulay Honors College of the City University of New York. I'll be your co-moderator today for this panel that's focusing on the future of work and women who are daring to lead. This is my co-moderator, Emily Madray from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. She is also a Macaulay Honors student and a sophomore pursuing a degree in sociology. We're going to start today by just introducing our 3 panelists, as well as asking you a couple of questions before we open it up to the audience, okay? Over to you, Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dean Byrne. So again, welcome and thank you so much for your time and joining us here today. We are first joined here with Councilmember Julie Wan, who represents the 26th Council District in Western Queens that covers the neighborhoods of Long Island City, Sunnyside, Astoria, and Woodside. She is the first woman, immigrant, and Asian American to represent this district in the city's history. As a tenant and activist, Councilmember Wan has committed to a new vision for her community with a deep focus on creating and preserving affordable housing, increasing access to city resources for all New Yorkers, and ensuring that access to quality and affordable internet is guaranteed, and many other issues that are at the top of her constituents' minds. We are also joined here with Councilmember Amanda Farías, who is a council member for the 18th District, representing communities in the Southeast Bronx, where she herself was born and raised. Councilmember Farias is a second-generation Afro-Latina of Puerto Rican and Dominican descent, and a proud product of local schools and community institutions. Within the council, she serves as the chair of the Committee of Economic Development and the co-chair of the Women's Caucus. She is the first woman, Bronxite, and Latinx person to serve as the chair of the Committee on Economic Development. Over to you, Dean Byrne.
And it is my pleasure to introduce Council Member Mercedes Narcisse, who is a dynamic and caring working mother, proud immigrant, and community advocate who has dedicated her entire adult life to improving the quality of life for residents of Brooklyn, especially those of her neighbors in the 46th Council District. As a registered nurse for over 30 years, Council Member Narcisse has fiercely worked to improve the quality of healthcare and its delivery, not only in Brooklyn, but overseas as well. Councilwoman Narcisse is chair of the New York City Council's Committee on Hospitals and serves on the committees on health, education, parks and recreation, transportation and infrastructure, criminal justice, and the subcommittee on COVID recovery and resiliency. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that Council Member Narcisse is also an alum of New York City College of Technology. I'm going to start with the first question for our panelists. Again, thank you for being here. You know, typically, legislative bodies around the world are comprised of majority males. It's a historic time for us in New York City that there are 31, in the majority, 31 members of City Council who are women, and particularly women of color. I wanted to ask you to reflect on what this historic moment means to you as women and women of color, particularly some of you who are making history right now.
Mm-hmm.
Julie?
I think this is, I mean, everything that you just said, just from our bios, right? From the Bronx to Brooklyn to Queens, where we get the money. It is clear that we are our ancestors' dreams. I'm a first generation immigrant. If I could go back in time and I sat down with my grandma at the airport when we were immigrating to the US, as she was sobbing her eyes out saying, "Don't leave Korea." And my mom kept on being like, "We gotta go. She got college to go to. Maybe one day she'll go to Harvard. Who knows what she'll do?" And if I could look at my grandma in the eye and say, "Halmoni, don't worry. Like, I will do great things. I will be the first Asian American woman and immigrant to represent this district in the greatest city of America one day." I'm sure she would have cried less. But it's not something that she would have even fathomed, because when on election night, on primary night, in a race of 18 candidates, when the clock struck midnight like Cinderella, I remember my parents all came over to me, pat me on the shoulder, brushed my head, and they were trying to comfort me, and they're like, "We're really proud of you for trying. But it's okay, you know, immigrants, we try our best." And they had no faith that I would win, and then we won. And that's the level of how much history we're making, so much so that people of color, working class people, my mom works at a nail salon, my dad was working at bodegas and warehouses, stacking boxes, where they thought my immigrant daughter would never have a shot to be an elected official representing, legislating in the city of New York. And we are. And I think that's the history that we represent right now.
For me, first and foremost, I have to say thank you to the new majority NYC, to have the dream for them to see more women in leadership, because like you said, around the world, we have male dominating politics, right? And passing laws for us. So I have to say thank you to them now formally, 21 and 21. To me, it's more than our body of 31 women. It is about the little girl like myself travel from Haiti to come here and with no word of English, and to become that elected official in the district, the very same district where I was not really welcome, you know, in many ways, is for them. It's for them to say that not only we can be in the body, but we are capable. We have the ability to pass legislation, to work together, for them to have that dream that one day I can make it and especially with what going on, especially in New York City, where we see the inequities in the Black and brown communities. Now you have a body of all of us from different backgrounds navigate our way, and from grandmother to mother to fathers, bringing us here, and we can make that difference. So we can look in the eyes and say, yes, those children, those young women around the world can make it one day as well. And they can look to us and looking for that leadership and say, yes, I can do it too. So this is for me.
Yeah, I mean, both of these comments resonate with me. As someone that's born and raised in my district, really had my grandparents raise my mom, and my mom raised me, and hopefully I get to do that in my community as well. It's beating all of those odds, right, and being able to do it. I ran once and lost and decided to run again, and that's how I got here. And I think ultimately it's about, what does this position mean to us? Like, yes, it's about community. Yes, it's about passing it on and breaking down those glass ceilings or those barriers for the next generation. But it's also having someone from the community bringing all of those issues and the community voice to the table. And we have the ability through legislative and budgetary power to really create long-term generational change. The things that we didn't see happening for us, the things I didn't see happening for my community and the people I was growing up with, I'm able now to create laws, to amend laws, to put money in places that can be deeply invested in changing generations in the future of my community. And so it is very historic to be in this body, especially where we are the new body that is had this drastic change in an electoral year, and hoping to change a lot of what hasn't been done in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing that. I think it's phenomenal, all of the work that you've been doing. So I just also want to say thank you for all that you have done and that you'll continue to do in your leadership powers. So one of the conferences that CUNY is having this week, the theme of that is Dare to Lead. In what ways have you exemplified leading courageously, personally, and in your elected official capacity?
I don't mind starting.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Like I just mentioned, right? I think I ran for office in 2017, where at the time the city council only had about 11 or 12 women in office. So already we were losing. We at one point had about 18 women in the city council, and over a course of 3.5 years, we lost women to special elections or to other endeavors. And it was a pivotal moment to decide in an open seat in my district where no one was declared to run, if at 26 years old, it was a good idea, who had worked in the council for less than 5 years, to jump in. And quite honestly, that was a very ambitious, daring moment to say who else in this community is in a better position to uplift the community concerns and take legislative, budgetary, staffing a member's experience into this position to identify how we can change the dynamics that are happening or the inequities that are happening in my community. And even though I lost and came in second place, I would say not only running was daring to lead, but then in 2019 declaring to primary the incumbent was another moment to say all the people that voted for me and had faith in me and being able to represent this district and all of the issues that I ran on were not going to fall to the wayside, and we were going to keep pushing to make sure the district got the representation it deserved. And so here we are in 2021 as a council member.
Wow. Thank you.
For me, is leading with courageous. You have to. It's not easy, and you have to make decision where it's not because of the dynamic where you are. There's different influence. There's folks coming to you. This is what they want. So you have to have the courage to understand your responsibility where you are and who sent you there. So understand that you are there to amplify others' voices, the people that elect you. Once you adhere to that, you kind of like can have the courage to say no, yes, and this is where I have my way of saying it. I will process it. Let me process it, because that gives me time to understand and reflect whatever the decision that I make today is gonna affect somebody's life, and it has to be either positive or negative. And my dream is to make it positive. So I have to step back to always do that and take notes, because it was not easy for me to even have the courage to run for office, knowing the place where I ran in the 46th district. You have a club that predominantly white male, who believe that they're most powerful. No one can tell them what to do. And for me, a little girl, immigrant from Haiti that just came here, and they see me grow up with them, most of them, because I came as a teenager, but yet they were not giving me that space. So I took that courage and be out there and ask people to vote for me. So whatever I do, it has to reflect on my decision that I make. And I say thank God and universe for giving me the opportunity and the strength every day to reflect on before I make any decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When we dare to lead, I think it's clear, right? Amongst all the 36 women that we have in our council, we are already breaking the status quo because they have dared to run for office. And you're hearing from across the board of how much courage it takes, how much money it takes, how much time and energy it takes emotionally, mentally, physically to do that. But aside from that, I guess in addition to that, as an elected official in office, every single one of us has taken the steps to say the reason why we ran for office was to challenge the status quo. And in order for you to create change within a very bureaucratic, more than 100-year-old system, it takes even more courage to do that. Within this past year, over the summer, I started on a journey for land use where we had a very large real estate developer who had their eyes on a large parcel of land in my district, who said, this is what we want to see in your neighborhood. And my neighborhood fought back for years saying, this is not what we want to see. And it's always easier to go with the flow. And it's always easier to do what many, many lawmakers have done before, to say, yes, let me rubber stamp this. The real estate body wants it. Let me just quietly go over the heads of my community and push it through. But instead, what I was able to do, along with the support of my colleagues here and many others and my community, is we fought back. We stood our ground and said, no matter how much you threaten me, no matter how much you pressure me, I will not stand down until you meet the needs of my community, which is affordable housing, 1,436 units from the 711 you started from. That's a 50% increase. And that you increase the number of family-sized units, because all of us want to be able to live with our families, not just studios and affordable housing. And we also want supportive housing for formerly homeless or unhoused community members. And we were able to shape it in a way where we had 2 acres of green space. We were able to get $2 million for legal protections, for anti-displacement for folks who currently live there, and so much more, because we were able to push in a way where our community was empowered. And that's what we call co-governance, where it isn't a single entity making backroom deals, but bringing the community to the negotiation table and saying, this is what we want to see where we live, especially those who have multi-generational families there that want to continue to be able to afford to live in that very neighborhood. And that's how we've made the space. And I took a lot of flack for it in the press, and I had multiple levels of elected officials who were higher rank and file than me that criticized me, that said, know when to fold, sit down, stop fighting back, the project's good enough. But we said no. And I was only able to do that because my fellow colleagues held the ground with me, had my back, supported me, as well as my community, where we said, you don't get to decide what's good enough for us. We decide on what's good for our community because we live here and we care for each other.
These are incredible stories, and I'm really intrigued by the links between the 3 of you. Could you help us understand a little bit more about your journey to becoming an elected official? I've heard courage. I've heard about what makes your story a little bit different. But how did you get here? I think our students would be really inspired by this.
I can go. How I got here, like I said, immigrant. a nurse for over 3 decades, a mother of 4, and a small business owner, which is the very own district that I am now. I own several businesses and run businesses in the community. Not easy, but when you travel so far away to get here, and having seen the inequities around you, I started engaging since high school. I realized that if you see something you don't like, you have to put your hand to it, and you have to work. You have to work hard. And for me, working hard, I would say if I started from the fact that since I was 5 years old, my grandmother will take me to the farm early in the morning, wake me up. Vacation, if I'm not in school, I have to go around with my grandmother. And she was a woman of her time that she would not take no for an answer when she determined to fight for people. And she's stronger when she's fighting for others. So I have learned that. So by the time I got in my community, I realized that folks just determine who goes in office without going through the process. So I'm like, are you serious? I was part of it. I'm in the club and I'm listening to everyone. And one day I look at it. I mean, they probably did not realize that's what I was doing. I love to assess. Before I became a nurse, I love to assess my room. I like to see what's going on. And I listened to everyone. And I said, you know what? I'm going to run for office. But it's in the back of my head, but I continue working and engaging in different, activities in my community. And people start telling me, you're going to be good for the community by running for office. And then every time people say that, I go to the back of my head, I say, you heard it. So you heard it. So those are the things. It's commitment to not only yourself, to the community, and to change people's lives. Because when you see something wrong, and maybe the person, like I was talking earlier, the person don't have the same drive as you. They don't have the same energy as you. But if you have it, why would you sit on it, not using it, not only for your family, for others? And this is the way I got here, by people committed, by people, supporting me and reminding me why I'm in the game, is to serve. And then I'm so happy to have the opportunity to really commit it to a community that gave me so much that is for me to give back. And this is how I got here, by people supporting me, uplifting me. So I'm committed to uplift others and continue the work.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of similarities there. I mean, I ran once before this, as I mentioned, and lost that race. And really between that race and running and winning in 2021 was a lot of groundwork, right? To run for office, you need to fundraise, which is things that happen over a long period of time typically because women of color take a longer time to raise money. There's more convincing that has to happen to donors. And I was working in City Hall for several years, but I wasn't in these spaces collecting cards or having follow-up meetings because this was my ultimate goal. I was working on legislation. I was managing the Women's Caucus. And so I already felt like I was creating that long-term generational change by just like writing bills, right? That felt like, okay, I'm in the room where it happens, right? And so when I was initially asked to consider running, I ran. We raised all the money. We came in as the runner-up against a 14-year, previous elected official. That to me was where like the light bulb went off and was like, oh, we're doing this again for sure, right? Like, there's absolutely no way that we were able to figure out how to raise over $60,000 and get it all matched and have like $250,000 plus to run a race, be effective, get your message out, and have like somehow resonated with over 2,000 people to come in a 6-way race as the runner-up. Like, that was really the moment for me that said, okay, we're definitely doing this again. And in between that time frame, it took the groundwork. It took re-engaging all of those voters, getting more people registered to vote, to expand that electorate, working to get other people around me in the community on the ballot. Right? I didn't stay and wait and to see if I would do it again. I started chipping away at the powers that be and taking up space with people that were like me, that reflected my values, that also wanted to be community leaders in an elected space. And so we ran more people for county committee and state committee and district leaders. And that helped me build a team, a committed team of people that wanted to continue to empower me, because they also saw me investing and empowering them, but were ready to back me up when I decided to run again. And I think for a lot of us, for the women generally that have run for office, it's difficult to raise the money. It's difficult to get the endorsements, right? New York City is a union town, and so you need that labor support. You need to be able to convince folks that you can raise the money and you know how to budget really well to do the mail, and you are kind of good at messaging and maybe kind of good at social media. Don't look at my TikTok. But all of those things are super important to making you a viable candidate. And I think all of those things were all the ducks were like right in a row for me in this second round where we were able to do it. And I think ultimately it comes down to, yes, the community, yes, the team that you put together, because those people are you at every single door you can't be at. But the messaging, the money, the endorsements, all of that backing is really what has helped get me into a victory in the 2021 election. Yeah.
And the struggle is real.
And the struggle is real.
It's really beautiful, though, because you see how there's so much diversity in our backgrounds, and our stories, our ethnicities, our culture, but the common core is the same. The commitment, the drive, and the soul and the heart, where you are willing to be at a gut-wrenching place where you will cry your eyes out to get to that end goal of making the finish line to be an elected official. For me, when I look back, and most of my friends who've known me since I was a child or from college, they're shocked when they find out that I've left my job and now I'm an elected official. They're like, what? That's very different, because this has never been part of the plan for me. It's not something that I would have even imagined, similarly, as a working class immigrant growing up in New York City, that I could even be in this seat. And I think it was kind of the perfect trifecta of a storm of COVID, high unemployment, where my parents were unemployed, COVID. I was working the last 10 years at a tech company as a digital strategy consultant, traveling Monday to Thursdays. I was always airbound, somewhere in Europe, Asia, Latin America, somewhere in America, who knows. But because of COVID, it grounded me in New York City. My parents lost their jobs. Nail salons were shut down, small businesses were forced to shut down, and I became their sole dependent for their finances. And then as a public school free lunch child, that's how I grew up, literally. If I did not have that, I may not be here because I would have gone hungry. When school shut down, I turned on the TV at home, and I'd just gotten the notice, Julie 1, you will no longer be traveling for an indefinite amount of time. And I was like, what does this even mean for my job? I guess I'll just sit around, and I got a lot of free time now. And I turn on TV, New York 1, de Blasio is on, and he says, schools are now shutting down, but don't worry, for those who receive free lunch, you will be able to pick up food so that your child does not go hungry. I immediately think of myself at 10 years old. My mom, I did not have childcare, not because my parents didn't love me, but because they could not afford it. She would lock the door behind her and be like, don't go outside, you eat what's in the fridge, and you take care of yourself, watch some TV, play with your brother. I thought of myself and I thought, so many children will go hungry because parents are still gonna go work at the bodega, grocery store, nurse. All these working class people are still gonna go to work because they're essential workers, yet their child will be left at home to fend for themselves. And maybe they'll eat a stick of butter, and that's not okay. So I started to make calls to my network for private donations, for nonprofits, and figured out a way to do hot meal deliveries in my NYCHAs because I have the largest NYCHA complex in my district, Queensbridge Houses. And as I was doing meal deliveries, I met a young girl who was about 8 years old, and she would sit every single day during the week at a bus stop with a tablet. And it took me about 2-3 weeks to get her to talk to me, and I learned that she had been using Link NYC, a beacon outside, to go to school on a tablet because she did not have internet at home, but she still wanted to go to school. She never turned on her camera, she never turned on her microphone because she did not want other children to know that she was poor. And that, to me, was unacceptable. That was when the switch went off and I was on fire because I was so pissed. And I started to make calls because as a federal contractor that worked in tech, I knew that with $20 per child, I could get them a hotspot through T-Mobile or another internet service provider so that 19 devices can be on high-speed internet indoors safely at such a low price. And at the time, that mayor was sitting on more than $150 million for broadband internet connectivity. So I made calls to other elected officials and I was kind of brushed off because the world was falling apart. They're like, people are literally dying and we need to get food. This is like the last thing we can worry about. And then people around me similarly that surrounded Amanda, people saw the fire and they were like, why don't you run for office? And I said, are you crazy? Like, I don't know anything about politics. I don't know anything about campaigning. I can't quit my job. My parents are depending on me. I'm paying for them. And I was actually in between housing because I gave up my apartment so that I could pay for my parents' housing because it's much better for a 30-year-old to be unhoused than a 60 and 70-year-old to be unhoused. So I was like, there's no way that I could quit my job. And they're like, don't worry, you don't have to quit, just do it on your free time. And I was like, free time? I guess I have free time. So I worked the whole entire way until January 3rd of 2022 while campaigning, thanks to the support of volunteers, local community members. And the thought was, if I as a consultant can bring a product to market globally and scale it to 200 million people, why could I not bring myself to market and market myself to 175,000 people to say, vote for me and we're gonna get internet for our lowest income neighbors. And within the first year of me being in office, by the end of the summer, all 3 of my NYCHAs now have free internet, cable TV, as well as free cell service for text and unlimited calls. And that's what we were able to accomplish in 1 year, because when you let women lead, they get work done.
You can say that again.
Yes. Yes.
Because my community never seen any changes until now.
Exactly.
Because I say we can all live together and we can address the inequities. And if you start from the bottom up, everybody benefit.
Yeah.
Everybody benefit. Yeah. And how many times you ran for office before you ran?
Once before.
Once before?
Yeah.
I had to do twice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you all for sharing. And I know some of this was brought up already, but the skills that you use to get into office run through all of you. So can you talk a little bit more about the skills that you use? I know we talked about dedication and commitment and hard work and critical thinking, but talk a little bit more about those skills and that mindset that you had to do and had to use to lead courageously in your roles.
I feel like Julie just said it. I mean, that's like the perfect leaning into really the moment. I mean, it takes, yes, perseverance and passion. It's gut-wrenching. You gotta be comfortable with hearing no, like every day, multiple times a day. Yeah, rejection is like the thing you have to really find comfort and confidence in. Like I always used to say, well, hearing a no on the phone, that's one less person I waste money on, right? Like I put money towards, because that's good. We're refining where our people are. So I think that for sure, like, are things you have to focus on. But I mean, the example you just gave of like knowing everything around you can happen, seeing yourself as a leader in tech, understanding how to market, like marketing ourselves is really like the
number one skill.
The number one thing to be doing every single day. And again, it's like it is to voters, it is to community members, but it's also to union leaders and to other elected officials and to donors, and
what do you mean by marketing yourself?
I mean, we all run on we all attempt to run, right? Candidates attempt to put platforms together, and value sets or priorities or things they want to see change. So you use what you have around you. You either do it through print mail, like snail mail, right? You're getting on TV. You're using social media. I mean, I had seen a couple candidates even do ads on like the most popular games played on their cell phone, which was like genius that I hadn't thought about. But yeah, it's all like a marketing pitch, and I don't want to take up too much space.
For me, I think it was confidence. You have, like, I think you mentioned that too. You have to believe in yourself first. Know that I'm gonna go out there. You have to be consistent and persistent, because it's not gonna, like in my case, it was not easy because you have a club that's so powerful, the most powerful club in New York City, for this little girl, came from outside nowhere, and then was thinking about, I'm going to have to do better than that. I'm going to run for office. So it's knowing your responsibility, knowing who you're going to represent, understand the people of your community, because not only just like Papa went say, I'm running. In my case, I had to spend years being active in the club, being the president of 41st Assembly District Democratic Club, being the president of Merchant Association, being the president of Canarsie by Choice, every organization that I've been, they actually eventually nominated me to be president, because not actually saying I'm doing a wonderful job, I don't think so, but it's about like commitment to saying I want things better. And I will spend all night if I have to change things. So for me, the first thing I did is lay out the plan, how I'm gonna win. Because now talking is one thing. The first time when I did it, I came close. I had 46.5 from somebody that's incumbent, that been in assembly for many years, and now he flipped to run against me. But this time around, I was asking myself, no, I have to do better. The second time, they got me good. So I said, okay, the first time they got me, I came close. I had 46.5% of the vote, so that's mean that I'm good enough for the area. The area voted for me. So the second time, it's just like a war against Mercedes. And I'm like, oh God, they sent everything. Even the kitchen sang against me. So, but that's okay. Called me name, do all kind of thing. And I said, okay, now I'm gonna sit back and have a plan. And I lay out everything they did and what did I did not do myself to counteract whatever they're doing. So I planned that. So I said, okay, now I don't have no little children anymore, so I'm gonna go to every church. Like I said, I will do 6 churches if I have to on a Sunday, sometimes more, and I will reach to the people. Because at the end of the day, the people gonna vote. And keep in mind, I've been to every part of the district in different level of, organization. So I know the people. Now it's how to present and market myself this time around. Now I don't have no children. I sold my business, the last business that I have. I said, I'm gonna sell the business and I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna give my time to the community and reach out.
So
and social media.
What skill would you describe that as? I heard a skill of being able to be comfortable with rejection.
Yeah.
What skill?
You have to be
everything at you and you
have to be consistent and not be afraid, because they come to a point that they can trying to make you scared. For me, I don't get scared easily, because whenever you come in to scare me, I don't have no fear in me. I was like, I would look at you and say, okay, if you say that. So like the thing I usually tell people, you don't control the world. You don't control, because the next second you don't know what's gonna happen to you. So therefore we are here as a passenger. So the time you have, do the right thing. So I want to do the right thing. So when you come into me, like they called me in to get out of the race. So I said, no, I'm not getting out of the race. I'm going to go through. So this time around, I kind of organized better. I was more consistent by knocking the doors, because the door could not, because every day when I'm on the street, even areas that they will say they're Republican, even I knew they were Republican, I still go to your door. Because I want to tell you what I have, what's my goal, what's my vision for the community. And no one can tell you that trying to address inequities such as housing is a wrong thing. Republican or Democrat or independent or progressive, wherever you are in life, you're not going to say no to a child not having food, to eat. You're not gonna say no to a classroom not having computers, no matter where it is. So when you start having conversation like this, you tell people that I'm not, the progressive that you think. What is progressive for you? Progressive mean like feeding kids that need to be fed. Progressive mean putting, computer, laptop in those kids that need to go to school. Or progressive is make sure healthcare is accessible to all. And during COVID time, when nobody wanted to come out, I want to be out. I'm a nurse. I'm not afraid to be out. So I want to teach people. So you take the time, like you were doing the computer, but I took my time going in the neighborhood where they did not have the COVID tests, bringing it at home for them, and taking people's blood pressure, walk around with my sphygmomanometer in my car, going to take people's blood pressure, going to talk to people, diabetes, that's scared because no one want to come out, not afraid. So this time, it's just like you cannot be, for me, fear is fear of the unknown, and I don't know what's the unknown, and you don't either. So therefore, I'm not gonna keep on moving and keep on going, do what I'm supposed to do.
This is so powerful.
Yeah.
Council member.
For all of the CUNY students who are watching, I think it's really important to remember that a lot of women already harness the skills that they need to be an elected official. And for most students that are already in this in the CUNY system, they already have most of the skills that they need. For example, what we just heard from Amanda and Mercedes is communications. So I think the simplest way that I try to explain this craft to students or to immigrants who have no idea how this works or what campaigning is, when they come and they're like, I want to volunteer, I tell them, okay, at essence, whether you have a campaign for marketing for Nike or you have a campaign for a political election, all you're doing is a conversation or a dialogue between me and a voter. But in order for me to have a dialogue with a voter, there are 10,000 things that are happening every single day. The sky is falling, your cat got kidnapped, you just had someone yell at you at your job, who knows? There is so much noise in between. That's why people pay so much for advertisements or whatever it is to get your attention, to hold you for 30 seconds, 5 seconds. And I need to have, whether it's mail, like Amanda said, or a phone call when we do call banking, or it is a digital ad on YouTube, that I am able to communicate a message to you where you will remember my name and you will remember one thing that I care for and that you will remember to come and vote and what day. And I gotta give a shout out to my comms director, Jenna Lang. She is the foundation of all the work that we do, because in order for us to be elected, re-elected, our constituents have to know the work that we have done, how we're fighting for them every single day, what we've accomplished so far, because this is a long journey, and what work lies ahead and actions that you can take to be in this journey with us. And like Mercedes just said, I cannot give Amanda enough props for how organized she is. We as women are multitasking queens.
Yep.
We are able to time manage in a way that men simply cannot compete. We are hustlers in a way that people cannot even imagine. And when I see my sister Amanda's computer, I'm like, damn girl, you organized. And that is what you have to do, because we have to time manage. We have to carry so much for our independent like our personal lives, our families, our spouses, our partners, our friends, and our families. And in addition to that, we also have the weight of this city. And that means our budget, the legislation, our constituent services, the news cycle, and everything comes down to how do we communicate well of how we do our job, so that you know that I'm doing my job of protecting you, caring for you, and looking out for you.
Incredible. Thank you. You know, Emily and I, when we were speaking to prepare for this, we went over the sort of different concepts around leadership. Sometimes leaders stand alone and they stand out front. Sometimes we see leaders that are deep team players. They collaborate with many, many, many others. Some of these themes are coming up right now. There's a lot of love on this panel, and you've been referring to each other and the way that you support and affirm each other. Could you tell us a little bit about how leadership works for you in terms of standing alone or collaborating, working together? I really love to hear more about that.
Yes.
So I think what's interesting is when you think about change, change is on the opposite spectrum of consensus. And we are currently in a system where in order to make change, we have to have consensus of at least 30, like we want to have 26 to 36 votes to make sure that that legislation passes, or this new budget transparency resolution passes, to make changes to how we spend our city's money. So that makes it extremely difficult for us to stand by ourselves because we're in a system where you have to have allies. And we were just talking about it right before this interview started of how important it is that we find common ground of how we are going to work together because, unfortunately, we talk about how there's no permanent enemies and there's no permanent friends in politics, only common interests. And that means that but we got real friends here.
Yeah,
I gotta put it on the record.
That's a fact, but
Yeah, we girls, we'll get our nails done together. But in the way that we're in this system, in order for us to lead and to make change, then not only do we have to be champions for that issue, but it also makes you hone into the skill of stakeholder management, of how do we identify everyone's differences in their power structure, as well as the feasibility of the goal that we're trying to accomplish, but also how do we build an alliance or a coalition inside and outside of City Hall. That means outside nonprofits, community groups, different neighbors, unions, whoever it is, to come to the table with us, as well as inside where we have enough colleagues to say, yes, I support this legislation and we must get this done. Here's the political will and political power.
Why would I be alone when I have all my sisters? So we collaborate well together. We learn from each other. We learn from each other's strength. And when we first got elected, I heard a few, guys mostly, saying that, oh, a lot of women, how that gonna be? I'm like, we're going to be just fine. Mm-hmm. I'm so proud today to say that we have 31 women strong. We understand each other. We do things together. We can tease each other. We kind of go into our own moment. Like, you can understand if the person walking as a woman, you look at them, you can see that there's something wrong. We hug a lot, by the way. And then we can be tough with each other. Like, if there's a bill that we disagree, we're very vocal. And for me personally, since I've been around a while, so if I have anything that I'm gonna do, I go around and say, can you support me? Can you come with me and tell me? And if the person say no, I would like, so why no? So let's have a conversation. And then my job, and which is all of our jobs, most of the time, is to let each other know this is where I'm going and this is the reason I'm going there. So can you come with me? So we can dialogue about things. We can laugh about things. We make fun of each other while we're doing it, So we can spend, sometimes I'm leaving City Hall like 11 something midnight. 11 p.m., 12 midnight. Or sometimes 1. I think some days because of budget and negotiation, we'll stay there for long and we're miserable, but yet we can relate to the heels. My feet hurt, damn, let's take it out. But those are the things that we can legislate. We can, pass budget with fun, with understand that we are here for one reason, for the people that elect us. And that message, because we're women, I think that we do much better than men, that thing. Because men is having the ego, like the power. So for me personally, I don't see much of people walking around like I'm so powerful. It's just like how I can get my things done. Like myself, I live in for constituent services. No one should go in my office and don't get services. If you cannot get the service, we should be able to refer you. If it's a federal level where we cannot do it, we have to make sure that we give you the guidance how you can get it solved. When you go to the federal office, whether the congressman or whatever, so by the time you get there, you already have the knowledge to tell you exactly what you want. So it's about educating. And women, since we raise kids like myself, we have to kind of have patience. We're not going to come and jump at you because you said you're not going to support my legislation. No, our job is to have the conversation to convince you why you should do it, because it's usually, most of us, it's about the interests of the people that we serve. So it's not hard for us to present our case and have a conversation about it. And we are sisters, so there's no reason we have to be alone. I don't have to be alone.
Yeah, the only thing I think I'd like to add is that this is supposed to be a collaborative space, as was mentioned. And a part of that also means, you build enough support and you build enough allyship and even for the moments where you know, like you might have to step away from something because your community is not there. And I think there are definitely a lot of moments where in life, you don't quite know if you'll have the support to not be on the same page with everyone. And I think what we find in this body is more times than not, we have the room to say, let's have a conversation of why like I can't be on that or I can't promote this because like I haven't had the time to bring my community there yet. Or, this person has asked, like I have these outstanding questions, so I can't support yet. I'm waiting for the hearing. I think like with more women, with more of a collaborative space, it's allowed a bit more grace for some of those sentiments of understanding like, oh, you're not just gonna give me blind support because I've asked for it. You have educated questions you wanna ask at a hearing because that's our job and that's our role, has been super great to see, and I think important in how we make sure we get to collaborate with one another, but also represent the communities that got us here.
Thank you. That response is just as powerful as every question that you have, every answer that you've given thus far. At this moment, I'd like to turn to the audience and open it up for questions. We have some students here today.
One question that I have is I know this process can't be easy, so what motivates you or drives you to continue to do what you do?
Changing people's lives, making people better, because I'm happier when I see everybody around me doing well. So that's what motivates me every day. The same passion I had to raise my own children is the same passion that I have for every child in my district in New York City at large. And we know the inequities are real, but a lot of folks were not putting those inequities as priority. They did not prioritize the Black and brown communities, the people that in need the most. And for me, every day, if I can change that, if I can put a hold on those others' plan to make it better for folks in needs, those are the things that drive me every day to get up and do better.
I gotta be honest, it's like the little girls that see me in schools or at an event. Really the kids make a lot of this worth it. I do think like passing bills or like seeing real change is super important, but getting like blessings from little abuelitas or like aunties and uncles saying how proud they are and pinching my cheeks, or like little girls saying like, aren't you the president? And I'm like, kinda, like those moments are really motivate me and keep me going every day, because for me, it's been like, how do we make sure that you stay grounded in community? Because like all of these other things are happening every day that are impacting people at different levels, and you have to stay like as focused as you can. But having a movie night and having a little girl dressed as like Moana come up to me and ask me if I'm the president is great.
I'm gonna have to swing by your district, because whenever I go to schools and I see little kids, they're like, "Are you a YouTuber?" And I'm like, "No." Unfortunately, unfortunately, I'm not. And they're like, "Oh." I'm like, "Sorry, I'm not cool enough." I think it's clear that it's definitely for the people why we got into the business. For me, every single day after a long day like this, when I go home and I get to see my son, who is just 11 months old now, smile and squeal and give me a big hug because they're so happy to see me, and just thinking every single day of how do I make my neighborhood safer? How do I make my schools more competitive and more welcoming and a greater holistic experience for every child? How do I make sure that we have more park space so that we don't have to wait online for 15 minutes so that my son can get on a swing? So at the end of the day, I think it's natural for women to be maternal. It's within us to say, okay, for all of the children in our city, how do we make sure that our city is a city worth calling home the way that it was for us?
Mm-hmm. Any more questions?
One more question. For people or like for the students, CUNY students that want to run for council, what is your advice to them?
Work hard. It's not easy. It's a struggle, but you can overcome it. You can, because I'm from CUNY, graduate from CUNY, graduate from public school, Tilden High. Came as an immigrant, no word of English. I'm here today. So it's possible. You have to be committed. The struggle is real. You get your degree because you can always fall back on that. Make sure that you have a profession. I will always encourage that. And CUNY give that opportunity. And I have to let you know that we are big for CUNY. When you say CUNY, nobody gonna say no when you come to budget and negotiation. Because we have so many CUNY graduates.
That's why we're here. No one says no to me.
So we're big. So if you need support, know, if you choose to run for office, know your community. Like me, like I told you before, I said it before, that I started since high school. And I was very engaged. And even the time when I was my babies, I was going through the process of having children, which I have 4, I will take them to meetings with me, to community board meetings with me, put them in the bag. That's why everybody knows my children. So my kids, like, I'll give you a joke on that. My son was traveling from Bronx. He went to Bronx Science. And while he's in the train, that I have friends that coming from work that hop on the train with him about the same time. And he will get home and I will say, what you were doing with this person that did say this? And he goes like, Mommy, how you get in the train? Mommy, how you knew? I said, guess what? I have eyes everywhere. and it was, but it was because of people in the community that have been seeing him sleeping on the chair in the back, knows his face, but he doesn't remember them, but they remember him. So it takes a village, and that's the village you're creating. So you cannot be running for office without knowing your environment, who you're gonna ask for the vote. You can go to the door, but if the person never heard of you, they're not gonna vote for you. So they need to hear your name about 5 times in something that you do. So therefore, it is your responsibility, whether it's social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you do. Try make sure you control the narrative. You send the message out. The messaging is very important. You have to send the message out to let people know what you're willing to do. What's your goal for the community? What's your plan? What do you want to do? And your passion have to be out there. You cannot be cold. You have to be very energetic and not afraid when people say no to you. So when people say no to me or close the door on me, I turn around, I take a deep breath, and guess what? I'm coming back. This time I have to have a new strategy for you.
Mercedes is better than most of them.
Yeah, I think I marked them as
okay.
no, and then I'm like, move on.
No. I'm coming back. Yep. As a matter of fact, I love when you say no to me, that's my goal now, to make sure you say yes.
Wow.
To see you again. You know how many I just had my state address of my district, and it was very diverse. And people will come to me, tell me to my face, I thought I would never vote for you. I never voted for you before. And that's my first time here. Guess what? I needed a stop sign. I could not get it for 15 years. And you came here, you did it. So you got my vote. My family vote. Those are the things that make me, as a matter of fact, excited to continue doing my work. And I thank God every day for the opportunity. So if you're CUNY, you want to go, let me go with you. We'll take a ride together.
Okay, everyone ask her for an internship. What I would recommend is keeping every business card and following up on that business card. I feel like more times than not when I was a young person, I would get a card and someone say like, this meeting was great, this conversation was great, we should follow up. And I was like, yeah, cool. Like, I don't think I'm that professional enough to follow up. Realistically, like I was and I should have. And then I think the other thing I've learned as a young adult, because I'm still a young person.
Yes.
Yes. Is like make your own mentors, right? I think a lot of times people assume that there's one day someone's gonna like knight you and say, I'm going to be your mentor, and that's not really it, right? Like the same way I see potential in young people around me, I know it's my job to say like, hey, what can I do for you? What can you be better served by? Is there a connection I can make? But also as a young person, you have to say like, I really liked that person and I want to keep talking to them and I want to keep getting feedback from them, and like they gave me criticism in like a nice way that I can take, and like how do I keep building that relationship? And so make your own mentors and follow up on all your business cards or all your meetings is super important to build those relationships.
I feel like I gotta give a quick plug to CUNY City College. That's where I did all my prereqs.
Yeah.
And for all the CUNY students out there who want to run for office, I think it's really important to remember political science, you get a Bachelor of Arts, not a science degree, because there is no formula, there is no scientific method of getting elected. Do not allow anybody to guarantee you an election victory if you work with them or whatever it is, with their secret sauce, because you are the secret sauce. There is no formula. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, saying you don't have a chance. You're not part of this top secret club for Democrats or Republicans or whatever it may be that is currently embedded in your neighborhood, but charge your own path. Every time I went and told somebody that I wanted to mentor me, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna run for office in like 2 months. And they're like, where did you come from? Who are you? What? And then they wrote me off and they're like, why don't you try running somewhere like Chinatown where there's Asians? And then I was like, wow, all right. So you have to have thick skin, like Mercedes was telling you, and be okay with rejection, but keep your eyes on the prize and pave your own path. And do what works for you, because what works for Amanda, what works for Mercedes, what works for me may not be what works for you. So you have to know yourself well, reflect long and hard, and know yourself of understanding what your skills are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, because opposition research is real. People will come for you when you run for office. And knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths, how you're going to control the narrative, be at the forefront of communications and marketing, to say, this is who I am, and this is why I'm running, and this is why you should vote for me.
Yeah, and vet all your social media.
Yep.
Yeah, make that private now.
Right, actually. Even late at nighttime, I'm there, TikTok. My son said, Mommy, you in TikTok? I said, damn right. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you all for sharing that amazing advice. I know I myself too is interested in pursuing a path in public policy and local government. So thank you for sharing that again. As a CUNY student, it is amazing to hear all of the work that you're doing. And along that same vein, what doors are you opening for the little Moana who comes up to you and those kids who think you're YouTubers? What doors are you opening for them to, and learn about city government, learn about what you're doing, and learn about how they can get involved in their government as well?
Yeah, I actually this past summer, and I plan to do it again, had summer youth employment out of my government office where we had 2 young women who ran around with me to different things and to all my community events and kind of got better ingrained in the area that they're growing up. And I do think like any of the opportunities that I get to show up to schools, talk about why I ran for office, who I am, or how to contextualize and make real like their programming to their parents' tax dollar, to my budget allocation, and having them understand that process is how we've been opening doors. And I think panels like this, where we get to show up and say, intern in our office, work in our office, is really how we can continue to break down barriers.
Thank you.
I'm big on intern. I always like, even from my private business, I always mentor young folks because that's how we invest. If we want the next generation to be better, we have to have time. And I visit every school building. And every time that I have a little time I get to my district, I have to meet with the principal, I have to go to the classroom. I have to talk to the young folks because that's how you know. So I love doing that. And at the city level, I had an opportunity, thanks to the speaker, Adrian Adam, that gave me the opportunity to be on the budget and negotiation. So I started my own initiative for nurses, for anybody that go into mental health and social work, because we need that, the workforce. And you don't have to have 90 average, you can have 75 and access that funding, which is great. And I thanks to my colleagues, because I fought hard, because I say we have shortage for nurses and we need social worker with the pandemic still over our head with mental health. And that's a little something, but at least it's a start to encourage others to go to nursing school, because we need the backup. So I make it my business to do a lot of presentation. I go a lot to high school now. I do a lot of workshop in my office too as well, because my office, I feel like this is the people's office, it's not mine. Actually, they elected me so they can have access. I have different small organizations that come in the office to meet, because if they don't have office where they can meet people, so we can give them a time slot so they can come to our office and then bring the young people to me too. So I love going out there in the high school, in whatever the movie night, whatever they do. So that was 2 days ago. I went to a school where the children, they were online. Every one of them ran to me, and the teachers look at me. I said, I don't want to disturb anyone. And they all excited because I've been seeing them. Wherever they are, I want to be there. Because if you want to make the difference, you have to talk to them. You have to listen to them. You have to make them feel comfortable. And before any child leave me or young person walking, I say, what's my name again? I say, Mercedes. I'm a city council member. I'm an immigrant. I'm from Haiti. And you know you can do better than me, right? You were born here. So they say, yeah, she's the Haitian council member. Yeah, she told us. So those are the excitement. And now, what I am so excited about is not only the one group in my community, one side of my community. I have the second largest district, so it's throughout the district. I'm happy to meet everyone and go with the game. When they have the games, I love games. I'm the cheerleader. I'll be the one yelling and screaming. So those are the things that, I keep doing to bring people closer to me to understand this, I'm working for you. And I do food giveaways every Monday, and I go strategically, I put myself by the high school. So when they come out, they can come and get their plate. And then some of them, I don't want no bag of produce, like vegetables and stuff like that. I say, no, you're going to get the food because, don't you eat? Yeah, I eat. I say, you're taking the bag home for mommy. So they become like, this is who I am, all right? And some of them remember me when I was campaigning. They say, oh, she always come to the schoolyard to play basketball with us. So those are the things.
I would love to see that one.
Yeah. Oh, I have it on YouTube probably somewhere. I have my free throw straight, baby. Let's play basketball.
Internships by nature are classist, and it was a barrier to entry for a lot of working class people like us. And now that we are here, we make sure that we're using programs like SYEP and paid internship programs through schools, stipends, etc. And another thing that my office was able to do, we were able to create the first CUNY homeless student housing in Long Island City. Because CUNY as a system doesn't really provide housing for students, and it's not always a given that people have a place to sleep, and that is not acceptable. I look to expand that, and I hope that anybody who is currently in the CUNY system now that is struggling in housing or in temporary housing that would like to be part of this with United Neighborhood Houses, please feel free to reach out to my office, because we care for you and we want to make sure that the last thing you have to worry about while you're in school is where you're going to put your head to at night. And for internships, we have it so that we're here to serve you as an intern, because not only are you here to serve our community, but we're also here for your growth and development. So if you're interested in legislation because you want to understand how laws and bills are made and passed, or if you're interested in budget, if you're interested in constituent services, whatever your interest is, we will place you there and we will train you. And in addition to that, any person who's interested in becoming an elected official, I think it's a rite of passage hazing where you gotta come and intern on our campaign. So hit me up.
Tell me when and where, and I'll
hit
be
me
there.
up. Julie1.com.
Different boroughs.
There's MTA,
Queens.
the train. I'll be on the train.
Yes.
As long as it's different days.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Because you gotta come and see the pressure cooker of how this challenges you to your very core of being a human being, of your identity when you run for office. And we invite you to be part of that journey. We're up for re-election. June 27th is our next election date. Come and volunteer, be at a poll site, bring all your friends. We count on CUNY women to all be there. Thank you.
And we need to all go support, okay?
Yep.
We gotta
We're gonna count on you all.
Yep.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I do think if CUNY students are wondering parts of the process, right? Community board applications are open right now. You can apply for your community board. We get slots on our community board where we can appoint people. I have participatory budgeting running out of my office. It's a co-governance model where we take $1 million of our capital budget, we give it to the public, and for poor use of better phrasing, and we say, you design the ballot, you design the projects, you work with the agencies, and then we have a public vote week that happens and really are engaging folks. And it helps in the in-between years or in the same years when we're running for office again to keep civic engagement high. But it also gives a different perspective of that a campaign might not give you, or working in an office might not give you, just the vetting with a city agency of what a project is, the cost estimates, how like even as a major city, the exorbitant costs that we have and how long multiple phases projects takes. It helps to actually make real the process of why, if you wanted a street light here or you want a public pool, why it took 3 years, 5 years, 8 years to see that in reality. So all of those things are happening too in each of your, in each of the students' different districts, and they should check out if their members participating.
Thank you.
Thank you for this conversation. As you can see, CUNY Conference Week is the place to be, and this panel discussion is probably going to be the best thing happening. And I want to thank you for this, because there are a lot of important themes for our conferences that are coming up here. We heard about courage. We heard about commitment, we heard about collaboration, we heard about communication skills, and a little bit of comfort with rejection. But most of all, I think we get a really strong picture of where we can go when women are daring to lead. And I just want to thank you as an immigrant, as the fourth woman and the first woman of color to lead my institution, for being such an inspiration and giving a vision of what I need to do to follow in your footsteps. And for my co-moderator, also, we come from the same country. How excited we are to be here facilitating a conversation with extraordinary women that are paving the way for us to be able to really serve New York. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Yeah, I just want to add on to Dean Byrne's thanks. As a student who, again, is looking to hopefully be in your footsteps one day, I want to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your courage to do all that you are doing, and for making yourself a role model for people in my shoes who dare to lead as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
I look forward to seeing you in the council.
Oh, I can't wait.
Thank you, ladies, for that insightful conversation. And I hope you student leaders who have watched from home come away inspired as well as empowered. Don't forget that we have the power to create and elevate our own narratives. Gender equality overall and leadership results in a more inclusive workplace and often better performances across the board. So go forward, ladies, and do what you do best. Thank you for watching. I'm Tinabeth Piña for CUNY TV.